Here is something that surprises most people when they finally hear it. You do not need acres of land, a large garden, or any farming background to grow fruit that saves you money and delivers genuine value year after year. Today, I am walking you through 12 of the most profitable fruit trees you can grow right in a container, on a patio, in a small greenhouse, or just outside your back door. Stay with me, because number 9 on this list rewards your patience with decades of consistent return once it establishes. And what I reveal at number 11 will permanently change how you measure profitability in a small space. Hello and welcome. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back. And if you are joining us for the first time, I am glad you found this channel. This is a space built specifically for seniors who want real, practical, deeply experienced guidance on growing food that actually matters. Not hype, not unrealistic promises, and not advice that ignores the realities of growing at our stage of life. What we are covering today is something I have wanted to put together for a long time. A complete, honest guide to container fruit growing that respects your intelligence, your space, and your time. This is not a surface-level overview. This is the kind of knowledge built over decades of hands-on experience. If this is the kind of content that serves you, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. I release new videos regularly, and every single one is designed to make you a more confident, capable, and informed grower. Now let us begin, and what I'm about to show you first sets the entire foundation. The number 1 fruit you can grow in a pot, on a patio, in a small greenhouse, or right outside your back door, is the dwarf lemon tree. And here is why that matters more than most people realize. Lemons never leave the shopping list. Every single week, across every season, people are buying them. For cooking, for health, for tea, for everything in between. That year-round demand is exactly what makes this tree one of the most economically reliable choices a small space grower can make. A 15 to 20 gallon container with excellent drainage, 6 to 8 hours of daily sun, and consistent feeding during active growth is genuinely all this tree needs to produce dozens of fruits annually in repeating harvest cycles. For seniors, a simple rolling stand solves the mobility challenge entirely. Move it indoors before cold arrives without lifting a thing. The one mistake that kills more container lemons than anything else is overwatering. Roots rot silently long before leaves show distress. Use a well-aerated mix with perlite and you eliminate that risk completely. Reliable demand, manageable size, predictable yield, that is the profitability formula this entire series is built on. Number 2 is the fig tree. And what I am about to tell you will completely change how you think about container growing. Most growers avoid figs because they assume a fruit tree needs room to spread its roots wide. That assumption is wrong. In all my years of hands-on growing, the fig is the only fruit tree I have worked with that actually responds better when its roots are gently confined. Moderate root restriction signals the plant to shift its energy toward fruit production rather than endless root expansion. And that biological reality is precisely what makes it one of the smartest container choices you can make. A 15 to 20 gallon container is genuinely enough. Figs fruit on new growth, which means every pruning session you do during dormancy is a direct investment in next season's harvest. I have watched a single well-pruned container fig deliver generous yields while staying completely manageable in height. Retail figs command high per-pound prices precisely because they bruise easily and travel poorly. Advantages that work entirely in your favor as a local grower delivering fresh fruit your community cannot find anywhere else. Use well-draining soil, water moderately, and this tree will rarely disappoint. The next fruit on this list surprises almost everyone who hears it. Number 3 is the blueberry. And if you have ever tried growing them and watched them fail without explanation, you are not doing anything wrong. You are simply missing one critical fact most gardening guides never state plainly. Blueberries fail in open ground because their roots demand acidic soil, specifically a pH between 4.5 and 5.5, and ordinary garden soil almost never delivers that naturally. But in a container, you control everything. I learned this early in my growing years, and my results changed immediately. An acidified potting mix gives you precise root conditions that open ground cannot offer reliably. That single adjustment transforms blueberries from a frustrating crop into a productive one. A mature container bush can yield several pounds of berries annually, and given strong retail pricing, especially for organic fruit, the return per square foot is genuinely impressive. Plant at least 2 compatible varieties side by side to improve cross-pollination and increase your harvest. Position pots at waist height to eliminate bending, and drape bird netting easily over compact plants before fruit ripens. Test your soil pH periodically and irrigate steadily during dry spells. What comes next proves that profitability is never just about harvest size alone. Number 4 is the columnar apple, and it challenges everything you thought you knew about growing apples without space. Most people picture apple trees as wide, sprawling giants that demand an orchard. That picture is outdated. Columnar varieties grow straight upward, barely 2 feet wide, making them genuinely suited to a patio corner, a narrow balcony, or a tight greenhouse row. A 20-gallon container provides the stability these trees need. And I must warn you, directly from experience, undersizing the container is the single most common mistake I have seen growers make with this variety. It quietly restricts root health and reduces your yield before the season even begins. Place 2 compatible varieties near each other to support pollination, feed consistently, and ensure full sun exposure throughout the growing season. The narrow growth habit means you inspect for pests, prune, and manage this tree entirely without a ladder, a genuine advantage as we get older. Here's what most people overlook about apples. The harvest does not end on picking day. Properly stored apples retain value for weeks, sometimes months, extending your economic return long after the season closes. What the next fruit teaches about quality will stay with you. Number 5 is the dwarf peach. And let me share something that took me years to fully appreciate. Taste is a profitability strategy. Most growers chase volume, counting fruits before they even ripen. What they miss is that a single homegrown peach, ripened fully on the tree, commands a perceived value that a store-bought peach simply cannot match. Commercial peaches are picked early to survive transport. Yours never leave the tree before they are ready, and every person who tastes that difference becomes a loyal buyer. Dwarf peach varieties bred for containers combine compact growth with full-sized fruit production, and self-pollinating cultivars mean a single tree in a 20-gallon container with rich, well-draining soil is enough to get started. When young fruits begin forming, thin them deliberately. Remove the excess early so the remaining fruit grows larger, sweeter, and heavier. I have seen growers skip this step and regret it when branches strain under weight and final fruit disappoints. A rolling container lets you pull the tree to shelter during late frost, protecting flowers before crop failure sets in. In humid conditions, watch for fungal disease and ensure sunlight is never blocked. What the next fruit teaches will surprise you. Number 6 is the dwarf cherry, and if you have ever stood in a market watching cherry prices during peak season and thought growing your own was too complicated, I want to correct that belief right now. Cherries have a reputation for being difficult, and in large in-ground orchards, that reputation is partly earned. But in a container, the entire dynamic shifts in your favor. I grew my first container cherry in a 20-gallon pot with full sun and well-drained soil, and what changed everything was not the growing, it was the protection. Bird loss is the silent killer of cherry harvests, responsible for more backyard failures than any disease or pest. A compact container tree changes that completely because draping netting over a small canopy takes minutes, not hours. Select self-fertile cultivars or compatible pairs to ensure reliable pollination, and position containers where they can be moved quickly if late frost threatens bloom. A mature dwarf cherry can yield double-digit pounds under proper care, offering fresh eating and preservation well into the season. Canopy access is simple, pest inspection is straightforward, and physical strain stays minimal. What the next fruit reveals about resilience will genuinely impress you. Number 7 is the dwarf pomegranate, and it is the fruit I recommend most confidently to growers who want strong returns without demanding daily attention. Most people assume high-value fruit requires high-maintenance care. The pomegranate quietly disproves that entirely. What drew me to this tree early in my growing career was its extraordinary tolerance, heat, moderate drought, and confined roots do not weaken it. They suit it. A dwarf variety in a 15 to 20-gallon container with excellent drainage and full sun will establish steadily and produce consistent yields without drama. Once it finds its rhythm, it needs less frequent watering than nearly every other fruit tree on this list. A genuine advantage for seniors who want productivity without exhausting daily routines. Retail pricing for fresh pomegranates and arils remains reliably strong, driven by their well-established reputation for antioxidant content and culinary versatility. Pruning is minimal, focused only on maintaining shape and encouraging airflow through the canopy. The two risks worth watching are overwatering and poor sun placement, both entirely within your control from the moment you choose where to set the container. What the next fruit reveals about niche markets will open your eyes considerably. Number 8 is the dwarf guava. And this is the fruit that taught me the most important lesson about profitability that no textbook ever stated plainly. Scarcity sells. Most small space growers never consider guava because they associate it with tropical farms and large-scale production. That thinking leaves an entire market completely unserved in your own community. In multicultural neighborhoods and health-conscious communities, fresh guava demand regularly exceeds what local growers supply, which means your container tree is not competing. It is filling a gap. A dwarf cultivar in a 20-gallon container with consistent warmth, strong light, and well-draining soil adapts remarkably well to container life. In favorable climates, fruiting can begin within a few years, and multiple harvest cycles annually make the return on patience genuinely worthwhile. Where cold seasons are a concern, moving the container indoors solves the problem entirely. Pest pressure is relatively low compared to many temperate fruits, and pruning requirements stay manageable throughout the season. If you overwinter indoors and notice a poor fruit set, hand pollination with a small brush corrects inconsistent results quickly and reliably. What comes next will challenge everything you assumed about how long profitability takes to arrive. Number 9 is the dwarf avocado. And before I say anything else, I want to speak honestly to you about something most gardening content refuses to address directly. Some of the most profitable crops you will ever grow require you to invest time before they invest back. The avocado is exactly that crop, and understanding this up front is what separates growers who succeed from those who abandon the process too early. Meaningful fruiting on a dwarf avocado typically begins after 3 to 4 years. I know that sounds long, but consider what you are building. A container tree that, once established, can produce dozens of avocados annually, carrying strong per-fruit retail pricing and consumer demand that has not weakened in decades. You are not planting for next season. You are planting for the next 10 to 20 years of steady, reliable return from a single container. A minimum 20 to 25-gallon container is necessary to support mature root development properly. Do not attempt this in anything smaller. The potting mix must be coarse and exceptionally well-draining, because the most common cause of avocado failure I have witnessed across many years is root rot from overwatering. These roots need air as much as they need moisture. Water deliberately, allow the soil to partially dry between sessions, and never let the container sit in standing water. Place your tree on a wheeled base from the beginning. Cold stress is a serious risk, and the ability to move quickly indoors when temperatures drop is not optional, it is essential. Ensure full sunlight exposure throughout the growing season without compromise. Patience here is not a weakness, it is the strategy. What the next fruit demonstrates about fast returns will give your overall growing plan genuine balance. Number 10 is the dwarf banana, and I will tell you something that still surprises people when they see it for the first time. A full, heavy bunch of bananas harvested from a container sitting on an ordinary patio is not a novelty. It is a practical, repeatable result that more small space growers should be pursuing. Most people dismiss bananas as a commercial crop requiring acres of tropical farmland. That assumption is simply outdated. Dwarf banana varieties are technically herbaceous perennials rather than true trees, which means their root systems are far more manageable in containers than most expect. A 20 to 30-gallon pot provides sufficient root mass and structural stability to support a mature plant through its full fruiting cycle. What I value most about bananas in a small space system is their speed. Under favorable conditions with consistent warmth, rich, well-fed soil, and steady moisture, fruiting can begin within 18 to 24 months, one of the fastest turnaround times among every fruit on this list. When the bunch arrives, it is genuinely sizable, and that volume compensates directly for the fact that retail banana pricing sits lower per pound than premium fruits. Here is the detail that changes the long-term economics entirely. Banana plants produce pups. These are young offshoots that emerge from the base of the parent plant, and each one can be carefully separated and replanted into its own container, effectively giving you a free, self-renewing supply of productive plants season after season. Protect your containers from strong wind and cold temperatures, as both are primary risks that interrupt the growth cycle before fruiting completes. Wind snaps the broad leaves and disrupts structural stability quickly. What the next plant reveals about profitability without a traditional tree will genuinely shift your perspective. Number 11 will challenge an assumption that has quietly limited how most small space growers think about profitability. And that assumption is this: that a fruit must come from a tree to deliver serious returns. Ever-bearing strawberries produce fruit within months of planting, command consistently strong retail pricing, and generate more value per square foot than most fruit trees on this entire list. That combination is extraordinarily difficult to match. I have grown strawberries alongside trees, shrubs, and climbing fruits across many years, and nothing closes the gap between investment and return faster than a well-managed container strawberry system. Individual plants are compact, but density planting across containers, hanging baskets, and vertical systems changes the equation entirely. Suddenly, a small patio becomes a layered, high-yielding space, producing fruit through multiple flushes across the growing season. Ever-bearing varieties do not deliver one seasonal surge and disappear. They produce continuously, which means your supply window stays open long after peak local harvests have ended. That extended season is exactly when retail pricing strengthens. Position containers and baskets at raised or elevated heights from the beginning, and you eliminate most of the bending and crouching that makes harvesting physically difficult over time. Here's the detail that keeps this system economical season after season. Strawberry plants naturally produce runners, which are young offshoots that root easily into fresh containers and replace older, less productive plants at no additional cost. Your propagation practically manages itself. In hot weather, mulch the soil surface to retain moisture and prevent the rapid drying that stresses plants most. Drape netting before berries begin coloring to stop bird damage before it starts. What the final fruit on this list teaches about patience, elegance, and long-term thinking will bring this entire series full circle. Number 12 is the dwarf pear, and it is the fruit I chose deliberately to close this series. Not because it is the most dramatic producer on this list, but because it embodies everything this series has been quietly teaching you from the very beginning. There is a certain kind of grower who overlooks the pear. They want volume, speed, and immediate returns, so they pass it by without a second thought. That is a mistake I made early in my career, and correcting it taught me more about long-term profitability than almost any other crop I have worked with since. Dwarf pear varieties grow with a naturally vertical habit, meaning canopy spread stays manageable and container placement remains practical even in tight spaces. A 20-gallon container filled with nutrient-rich, well-drained soil supports stable, steady development season after season. Pears require cross-pollination, so selecting two compatible cultivars planted side by side is essential for a reliable fruit set. Do not skip this step and then wonder why your tree flowers beautifully but delivers nothing. Yield per tree is moderate, and I want you to sit with that word rather than resist it. Moderate yield from a well-chosen, properly managed container pear still commands favorable retail pricing, particularly for locally grown fruit that reaches buyers fresh rather than after weeks in cold storage. Like the columnar apple we discussed earlier, pears store exceptionally well after harvest, extending your economic return far beyond picking day. Pruning follows a predictable schedule. Maintenance stays low once the tree establishes, and physical demands on your body remain manageable throughout the season. Watch for fire blight in humid conditions and never compromise on sunlight. Informed selection, environmental control, patience, and realistic expectations, that is the complete foundation of everything we have built together across these 12 fruits. You have just walked through 12 carefully chosen fruits, each one selected not for hype or dramatic promises, but for real, practical, sustainable value in a small space. From the dwarf lemon that meets a demand that never disappears, to the fig that thrives in confinement, the blueberry that rewards environmental control, the columnar apple that stores value beyond harvest day, the peach that sells on taste alone, the cherry that mobility makes manageable, the pomegranate that produces steadily with minimal input, the guava that serves markets others ignore, the avocado that rewards patience across decades, the banana that compensates volume for price, the strawberry that outperforms trees per square foot, and the dwarf pear that closes this series with quiet, lasting dignity. Every single one of these fruits carries a lesson that extends far beyond the plant itself. What you grow matters. How you choose matters. And the expectations you bring into your garden determine everything that follows. Container growing for seniors is not a lesser version of real farming. It is a smarter, more deliberate version of it, and you now have the foundation to begin with confidence. If this series added genuine value to your growing journey, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. And drop a comment below. Tell me which of these 12 fruits you are planning to grow first. I read every response, and your experience matters here. This is your garden, your space, and your opportunity. Use it wisely.